Right, hey everyone, it is Thursday evening's edition of Weather for Weather Geeks, second day of the new year, and it was a pretty nice day, all things considered today. When it's early January, we should be around 32, 33 for a high, and lows in the upper teens to around 20, but we spent most of the day in the 30s and 40s. We're going to spend all night in the 40s tonight, and another balmy day coming our way on Friday. I want to talk briefly just a little bit more about the winter forecast and the long-range outlook. Our top analog year for the winter forecast this year, as you know, if you watched that video and have been following me for a few months, we did the original winter forecast back just a little after Halloween in early November. Our top winter analog, the winter of 2004-2005. And this is what that winter looked like temperature-wise across the nation. Warmth like this. It was a little cooler than average in New England. We were actually almost exactly average for that winter, even though we're very close to the above average zone. That's what the winter of 2004-2005 looked like. Here's what happened this December, just last month. Looks very similar, doesn't it? The overall temperature regime looks very similar from that winter to winter so far, a third of the way through. Now, of course, this map is going to change as we go deeper into winter, but it is interesting how similar these maps are. The top analog winter and this winter so far. And, you know, with the warmth that's coming up in mid-January, a reasonable question, is our winter forecast in some trouble? The answer to that is yes and no. It's not going to verify like this. This was the original, or I'm sorry, the updated winter forecast that I did in early December. My original forecast, actually, I think was probably better because it had the cold anomalies more like this and not as far south. Maybe should have left that, given what the trends are. Now, that being said, even though we have some big-time warmth coming for a good week to 10 days centered right around the middle of the month, we've got a lot of winter left. And winter's only a third of the way over. Winter we are defining as December, January, and February. And just because in a hockey game a team is down 3-0 at the end of the first period doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to lose. So there's a lot of winter left, and you know, we haven't even started really thinking or talking much about February because it's barely into January. It's very much a possibility that February will be a very cold month. I don't have a strong feeling on February yet because we've been concentrating so much on the short term and the January forecast, but a cold February, which again I can't rule out at this point, would negate some of the warm anomalies that we've built up so far this winter. Long-range forecasting, you know, it's not for the it's not for the timid. It is hard business, and you know, I mentioned this when I did the original winter forecast a couple of months ago. Yes, there is some skill in this. There is skill in seasonal forecasts and winter forecasts. I've had several successes in my career here at WFMJ with winter forecasts. Last year went a little sideways at the end with February warm, but this may be getting harder, and the reason for that is climate change. With the Earth and the oceans warming so rapidly, our ability to rely on past years, especially years from the 20th century, you know, our ability to rely on those years may be decreasing because the atmosphere was so different back then. So, yeah, this is hard business. There's some skill in it, but it is hard business. We'll see how the rest of the winter plays out. The way today played out was like this. Nice sunrise this morning. It was in the 30s. And a couple of interesting things here on this time lapse today. The clouds roll in for the afternoon as expected. Also, if you pay close attention, the little bit of snow that's on the ground on those non-paved surfaces disappeared pretty quickly as we got into the mid-40s this afternoon. Our next weather story is going to be the rain that's heading our way. It is a soaker of a Thursday evening rain down towards Nashville and Memphis, towards Lexington, Louisville, Evansville, and eventually Cincinnati as well. And actually the rain gets harder down across the deep south where some thunderstorms are ongoing and a severe weather threat will be a possibility in places such as Jackson, Mississippi, down towards New Orleans as well. Not unheard of to have severe weather in the deep south in early January, but you know, you don't see a lot of severe weather days in early January. One thing for sure, there's no Arctic air on the playing field at all. It's all bottled up near the pole and up into Alaska as well. And the polar vortex, you know, you may have seen some talk of the polar vortex lately and how it's unusually strong right now. And an unusually strong polar vortex actually does not mean cold for us. It means warmth usually for us, because when the polar vortex is strong, it's usually staying up around the North Pole. When it weakens, it starts getting wobbly. And it enables the jet stream to dip south and allow colder air masses to push in. But when the polar vortex is really spinning really tightly like a figure skater who's really got their groove on and spinning very tightly without much of a wobble, then all the cold, true Arctic air stays up to the north. All right, so it's much too warm for any snow, so this is going to be light rain and drizzle pushing our way later on tonight into tomorrow morning. This will never be anything all that heavy, just some light rain and drizzle from time to time late tonight. Heading into Friday morning, it may not do much more than drizzle for parts of Friday afternoon. Maybe a resurgence of some steadier rain for a time Friday night. Then as we go into the weekend, as we get on the backside of this low and the wind direction goes a little more northwesterly, we will get into some marginally colder air. And I think temperatures will fall on Saturday after spending the early morning hours in the lower 40s. We'll probably be in the mid-30s by mid-afternoon, and some wet snowflakes can start to mix in. Snow showers here and there for Saturday night. Then I don't think this amounts to a whole lot. And then Sunday, actually a decent day. I think there'll be some sun. This next warm front may clip us with a little bit of snow then very late Sunday and heading into Sunday night. Also don't think that'll be tremendously impactful. Rainfall forecast on our modeling, pretty good agreement here, somewhere between 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. I kind of lean towards the higher end of that range, maybe 0.6, 0.7 on average. Here's a look at our model spread for snow. There's a little more of a spread here. The European model has hardly anything. GFS has about 3/4 of an inch at the airport, and then the NAM and the GFS Ensemble are a little higher, up towards 1.5 inches. I kind of think it's an inch or less when you account for the two opportunities for snow this weekend, one later Saturday, then the next one late Sunday and into Sunday night. Neither looks like a very big deal. Here's the latest 8 to 14-day outlook, and yeah, blood red across the eastern U.S., that is for sure. This would take us from roughly next weekend through the following week. That should be the heart of the warmth, somewhere between the 10th and 15th or 16th day of January. Abnormally warm weather. Does that mean no snow? No, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes even when you have warmer than average temperatures, you can get some snow if the storm track is right, and it looks like a warm pattern compared to the average, and it looks like an unsettled pattern as well. The 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook shows an active jet stream bringing frequent rounds of precipitation to a lot of places, including around here. So I don't want to rule out some mid-month snow if things line up just right, but any cold that's in the pattern will be just a one day here and there kind of a deal, and we've got that coming up next week as well. We've got one day in the forecast middle of next week on Wednesday with highs in the upper 20s, and that's it for below average temperatures in the next probably 2 weeks. So any cold would be very, very brief if there is any during mid-month. That'll do it for tonight. Thanks as always for being patient with me as these videos sometimes run a little long. I appreciate your attention, your patience, and your viewership. I'll see you back here for a fresh edition of the Valley's Geekiest Weather video Friday evening.